Happy Halloween and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing some easy SFX looks to do at home, so if you want to see how I do these 3 looks, go ahead and keep watching. So for this look you're going to need a few different things. You're going to need liquid latex, toilet roll or kitchen roll or tissue paper or something like that, some sort of tissue. You're also going to need cream paints or like water activated paints, or if you just have like colour correcting stuff or eyeshadow, that's fine as well. I start off by doing a black line across my neck just to kind of mark out where I want things to go, and then I do a layer of liquid latex, and then I put some toilet roll strips over top of that and then coat that in liquid latex as well. There was a little bit on the side that I kind of missed because a bit of paper wasn't long enough, so I just put another bit on there and cover that again. Liquid latex is a bit of a bitch because you need to like let it dry and it can take a while sometimes, so I spend quite a lot of time like fanning all of that down, and it took a while, so I didn't leave all of that in. I just kind of like, you know, cut the majority of it out because it did take about 5 minutes to fully dry the layer. So to try and cut down the time that it took me to do this, instead of like drying each individual layer each time, I basically put on the toilet roll, liquid latex, more toilet roll, more liquid latex, and then dried all of it in one big piece, as opposed to drying a load of it, like a load of different layers, because I thought that would just be a bit quicker, a bit easier, and you get the same effect anyway, no matter how you do it, in my opinion. Might be wrong, but who knows. Once it's dried, I added another layer of liquid latex just to give it like a bit more like thickness, a bit more stability, and also just because I felt like it kind of needed it. And then again, just dried that last layer off. Now, liquid latex can be extremely sticky. I put my neck down at one point and lifted it up and I was like, oh my god, it's like stuck to each other. So you need to use quite a lot of powder, and I would recommend either putting a towel over you or a cape or something over you, or changing your top halfway through, because this black top is still currently white with a bit of powder, and it's not fun. For these scissors, as I said just there, like you need to be so careful when you're cutting this open. I would recommend asking someone to help you with it, because it is quite close to your skin and these scissors can be quite sharp. You can use any kind of scissors if you want to, but yeah, it can be quite tricky to do this yourself, especially at the angle that it is at. If you're doing it on your face or anything like that, then it's probably a bit easier, or if you're doing it on your arms, it's a lot easier because you can see what you're doing, but certainly around your neck, please be careful because I don't want you cutting yourself. So I literally just lifted a slight bit of it and just cut a straight line right across the liquid latex toilet roll thing that I made, and I kind of separated it a little bit with my fingers just to pull it apart and make it a bit more messy. I again powdered down because the inside is still quite sticky, and then I used this like cream paint set that I got from Amazon. It's literally only a couple of pounds. Like I think you can get these in like a lot of kind of craft store sort of things, and I just used the black and the brown shade to fill in the cut in my neck. That will give it depth later on when you put all the blood in and things like that. I focused most of the black right around the outside to make that look a lot like deeper and darker than what it actually is, and a lot of the brown went into the middle of the kind of cut throat area, if you know what I mean, and it is just already right now it's quite grim. I used some of the brown to go over top of the toilet roll, and that still kind of helped me later on when I use concealer and stuff to kind of blend it in with my skin. Because the toilet roll is bright white and the latex is yellowish when it dries, it's not going to match your skin if you go in normally with the foundation or the concealer or whatever you use. So that kind of helps blend it into your skin later on. I then used a bright red, and I did that slightly around the edges to give it like an irritated kind of look, and then right in the center and kind of like all over the inside of the slit throat. And then I used one more layer of liquid latex just over top of the colours, because the cream paints don't really blend out that easily, but then if you use any kind of like product on top of that, it mixes with the cream paint, so I wanted to stop that from happening. And also the bottom part of the like slit throat had gone a bit like loose, and I was worried it's gonna like completely separate away, so I put a little bit of latex in there just to stick it back down again. And then after I did the liquid latex, obviously I powdered again because it's still sticky. I went in with concealer because I wanted my face to be a bit paler, and my concealer is a little bit too light for me, so I went in with concealer around the liquid latex edges just to kind of colour them a bit more. You can still see that the edges aren't perfect, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I'm going to be covering it with blood later on, so who cares? But yeah, so I just went over that along my neck and along my face. You can see how white this makes me. Like, this is the shade 2 in the Collection Lasting Perfection range, or the new range, and if that's how white it is, I can't wait to see how white number 1 is, because that's ridiculous. I wanted to go for a whiter face because that gave me like a bit more of a gaunt look, like I was kind of dying because I had my neck slit, like I've bled out. But it's completely up to you what you want to do for your actual makeup on your face and things like that. Like you can really do whatever the hell you want. I just wanted to do something that made me look a bit dead, a bit drained, and just a little bit like, you know, I've had my neck slit, I'm probably gonna be dying, you know, like I don't want to look all glamorous, but you could do a glamour look if you want to. So I basically kind of stuck with more natural looks all over. So for my brows, I just used a bit of brow gel to like bring life back to my hairs again because they got a bit of concealer in them. And then I literally just used whatever was left on my eyebrow brush just to give a bit more definition in some areas because some bits were kind of lacking, so I wanted to make it look at least a little bit neat and just even them out a little bit from there. For my eyeshadow and actually my contouring stuff as well, I'm using my SFX Extra Spice palette. And I'm using a mixture of like a khaki green shade, an orangey shade, and like a yellowy shade, and that's kind of just to give me like a little bit like almost slight bruising around my eyes, like I've been punched in the face a little bit, but I also look really tired. And I lightly as well, like I did the majority of my like lash line and my eyelid first, and then whatever was left on my brush, I took that into like the bags of my eyes to really make me look tired, to really make me look quite gaunt. Then after that I decided to add a little bit of like a reddish pinky-ish shade in there just to make me look even more tired and like almost like I've been a bit sad and crying, like I wanted to make it look like my eyes are a bit red. And then to contour, I'm not going to use like a normal bronzer, I actually use the khaki green shade straight away because it's kind of like greeny, greyish, but it still gives a little bit of warmth, and I thought that would make me look a little bit more ill, a little bit more like pale, a little bit more just like sick looking. So I went quite heavy with that in like my cheekbones and on my temples especially. And I also dragged the contour right down to like my chin from my cheekbones, and then I'd go later on in my smile line kind of area as well. Just again to kind of suck my face in to make me look quite gaunt, and to like, I don't know, accentuate all the features that you wouldn't normally want to accentuate. And I used the tiniest bit of black. Let me tell you, I was terrified to use this in case it came out too muddy, but I think it worked quite well. I think it kind of finished off the fact that I don't look very well. I look a bit sick. I also added some black into my actual eyeshadow on my eyes as well, just to try and make my eyes look a bit more sunken in and just a bit more like, I don't know, like I'm just tired. And I put that through my brows as well, just to make it look like I'm kind of like, same thing, I'm just a bit gaunt, to be honest. I actually want to do my mascara dopped myself in the face, as you can see there, and I was a bit annoyed. I was actually going to try and do like old tears going down my face, but I didn't really know how the best way to do that would be, so I left it. For my lips, I literally just took a lip liner and I lightly lined my lips, but I kind of blended it out with my finger, and that way they didn't look too neat, they didn't look too special, they just looked kind of like mucky and a bit dry and a bit chapped, so I left it at that. And then to add a bit more colour onto the slit throat, I just used a bit of the red and a bit of the brownish shade from my Soph palette and put that around just to kind of add a bit more irritation around the slit throat. This blood by Meron, it's like a coagulated thick blood and I love it. It's so thick, it's so sticky, it's really fun to use actually. But it is a bit of a pain because it is so thick as well, but this is a great blood to use in things like this where it's like a deep gash, because it doesn't run everywhere. Once you put it down, it kind of stays there, and that way you're not going to get like rogue bits of blood coming out of your neck and things. But it did drip onto my top, you can kind of see it there, it dripped onto my hand, yeah. So when I got up my fingers, I thought, sod it, I'm just going to dot this all over my neck, all over my face, because that was an accident on my chin. But I kind of ran with it, I just thought, right, I'll smudge it all out. This isn't really precise, like you can do what the hell you want with it. And yeah, I think it came out pretty well. My camera did actually end up dying here, so I had to film the ending shots on my phone, but this is the finished result. If you're a bit lazy, or if you try it out and it doesn't work for you, take it all off, put some more concealer on your neck, powder that shit down, and I ended up getting one of these little like blood drop chokers and thought I'd just shove that on instead. You could actually make that work quite well just by like painting the bottom of your neck black and pretend it's like a beheaded look and have the choker resting on top of that. Yeah, you could also do that if you want to. It's a lot simpler way and it's more office friendly, but it's also not SFX, so For this next look, I'm doing a SFX demon or like cult member sort of look. So I'm starting off putting some eyelash glue on my forehead. You can use spirit gum, or like you can use liquid latex, but I wanted more of a glue and I don't have spirit gum. Over that, I'm then putting scar wax on, so I let the eyelash glue go a little bit tacky first before I put the scar wax on. This stuff is a pain in the ass to deal with, and you can see like I'm taking it off because I just couldn't get it to blend out seamlessly. I now know why Mikey from Glam & Gore calls scar wax the devil, because oh my god, it's a pain in the ass to use. To try and like stop it from sticking to your hands and stuff and to help you blend it out a lot easier, you can use Vaseline or like, I don't know, some sort of like petroleum jelly. I kind of searched it up and found that you can use hand moisturizer as well, or like hand cream, so I was using that because I don't have any Vaseline. To get the circle in the scar wax, I actually use a foundation lid. You can freehand if you want, but I didn't really trust myself because, I don't know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? And I like lightly went over that with a pair of scissors, and be really careful when you're doing that because you want like a fine edge, like a really, really thin slit. So I opened up the scissors to do that, and that was quite dangerous. I then traced out a pentagram, like an upside down star sort of thing, like the typical satanic star, and sketched that out and then deepened that with the scissors again. And then just to kind of seal all of that in, I then went ahead and covered it with liquid latex and let that dry off, which took a little bit of time. When you're doing this, you kind of do want to fill in the cracks, but not too much. Plus you're going to be breaking through them anyway later on. And then I just went ahead and powdered because, like I said in the last one, liquid latex can be very sticky. And then just putting foundation on as normal. I put on a little bit of a paler foundation, as you can see, like I just look a bit like even more ghosty white. Just kind of put it on as normal everywhere, but when you're going over the wax, be careful not to like press too much or rub too much. I would advise using a sponge because it's a lot easier to use a sponge and be a lot more light-handed to blend it with the foundation out, whereas with a sponge you'd be like pressing it. Did I say sponge or brush earlier? I can't remember. But yeah, use a brush, not a sponge. That's just my recommendation, but you know, who am I really to tell you what to do? You do whatever feels best, really. And then just use a bit of concealer, and then I end up powdering full face down as well, just so that I can carry on. I then go with a small brush around the outside of the line, so the circle with the star and everything, with black. And when I'm doing this, I'm kind of pushing it into the line so that I kind of split open that scar wax a bit more and break through the layer of liquid latex. And that way it just gives it a bit more depth as opposed to looking like you're just drawing it on, because then what's the point of doing the wax in the first place? And I just kind of stipple that with my foundation brush just to try and blend that out a little bit, so that the black isn't quite as harsh. Next I'm applying bruising, so I'm using a load of different colours. I'm using red, yellow, blue, just kind of mixing them all together. And when you do the bruising, you really want to go quite far out with it, because when you put blood on it later on, you're going to be hiding a lot of the bruising. So yeah, you really want to add in some irritation all around the lines of the star, and just kind of like everywhere, like literally everywhere. I don't think I did it enough. Like I kind of go in later on and think I could have done more, but hey ho. For the makeup, you can really interpret this however you like. I wanted to do like kind of almost like I've been possessed. So I think of this as kind of like a demon sort of thing, but it can be a cult member or whatever if you want to. So I wanted to go really, really dark in my eyes, and I wanted to actually not do eyebrows, but I do change my mind later on. So that's why I took the black side high up, and I wanted to proper bring that out into my temples, just to give me more of like a spooky kind of look and just blend that black right out. It's like a really easy eye look. You can't really muck this up, to be honest. It's not meant to look neat. It's not meant to look clean. It's meant to look messy and just a bit mental, really. I smoked that black out in my lower lash line and then dragged just whatever's left in my brush later on through the like bags of my eyes, just to make me look a bit more like, I don't know, sunken in, tired, you know, a bit more like ghoulish sort of thing. And this is where I decided like, no, I actually do need eyebrows because I looked a little bit mental without them. So I just filled them in as I normally would, just straight up black, like I, again, usually would. But if you don't want to do brows, you don't have to. You can block them out if you want to. But I think with the scar wax and everything, that can be quite tricky to like get it all to blend in seamlessly. So I just kind of left my eyebrows on and I think it looks okay. I'm then using the black very, 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 very lightly to contour my nose, like around the sides of my nose and in the creases of like where my nostrils are, things like that. You really want to go in with a light hand with that, otherwise it will just look mental. And I'm just adding a little bit of like shadow underneath my lip. I'm also using the same black to contour. This did get a little bit messy and I did kind of muck it up a little bit, so just be really careful how you're doing it, really careful how you're blending it out and how you're placing it, because once that black's on there, it's not really going to come off that easily, and I do kind of stipple it out with my foundation brush just to try and make it look a little less mental. I wanted to do some like veins under my eyes because again I wanted to be kind of like a possessed demon, so like I don't know, I thought veins would go well. So I used my little cream palette thing from Amazon with red, blue and yellow, and a little bit of black as well, and I just kind of like did some faint lines around my eyes, down my mouth. You know, it's completely random. It doesn't have to look that neat. You can do it along your forehead if you want to. When I've done this look previously, I did it coming in from my temples. I do kind of regret doing the ones around my lip because it makes it look like I've just got a really wrinkly lip, but you know, once it was on, you can't really get rid of it. So I then filled in my lips with black lipstick. You can use any black lipstick you want. You can use like a pencil eyeliner to outline them if you want, or anything like that. You can use any colour really. If you have like a deep red, that might also work, but I wanted to choose a little black lipstick. I would recommend as well, when you're doing this, to do your eyes first, because when I was trying to put on the eyeshadow and the eyeliner and stuff, like the mascara, trying to raise my eyebrows so that I didn't like ruin the liner and stuff when I have that wax on my forehead, it wasn't easy. So if you're gonna do like liner or something, I would suggest doing the majority of it first and then doing the wax on your head and then going around it. I learnt that the hard way, but that's my warning to you. That's just what I recommend doing. And I go back into my lips just to extend the like corners of my lips. I don't know, it makes it look a bit more like devilish, I think. And then I mucked up my mascara there, so I just covered it up, but it actually didn't work covering it up at all. I'm using that same really thin brush that I used earlier for the little star bit, and I'm just shoving that same Mehron blood straight in. I'm pressing that into the creases of the wax, all around the circle, all inside the star. I'm trying to make sure that some areas are a bit thicker than other areas to make it look a bit more realistic, because when you have got a cut, it doesn't all bleed the same from, I don't know, the same like one line. There's parts that bleed a little bit more, parts that bleed out a little bit less. So I wanted to really like make some parts thick and have some parts just looking like they're kind of like, I don't know, bled into other little bits. And then take the fluffy side of that brush, or you can use any fluffy brush. You could use a ripped up sponge if you want to. And I dipped that in the blood and stippled that with my hand just to get the majority of it off. And then I really just messily stippled that all around the cuts, all around every single line, just to make it look really inflamed and messy and just bloody, really. And then I really just sloppily put thick coats of blood on, just dripping down in random areas. But the blood that I have, the Mehron blood, it is quite hard to do that, but if you had runnier blood, that might be a little bit easier for you. And then just went back around and filled in other parts as needed. But yeah, that is essentially the look completed. So star lips and messy hair just look a bit mental, and you're done. This last look is like a Chelsea Smile, Jeff the Killer, Joker-esque kind of mouth look thing, and it's done pretty much the same way as what the slit throat one is, it's just at a different placement. So again, I'm using liquid latex. I actually ran out when I was using this, so like I had just enough. I'm using liquid latex, putting that all over where I've marked where I want the smile to be, layering on with toilet roll or tissue paper or whatever you want to use, putting more toilet roll on top of that, layering that again with liquid latex, and I think I only do 2 layers because I was so low on liquid latex. But yeah, once you put all of that on, make sure it's properly dried. I do this in 2 separate strips as opposed to one big piece, because that way it helps your like mobility when you're moving your mouth a lot more. It is quite hard for me right at that point to open my mouth, but after I cut it, be careful. It is a bit easier to open my mouth, and that way you can actually talk, drink, maybe eat and stuff if you're going out to a Halloween party or something like that. So yeah, I do it in the 2 strips just because I find that's a bit easier to move, and it doesn't really like lift off your face as much when you're talking and things like that. I don't cut straight lines through it. I do actually cut like little triangle slits into it, and that way it just makes it look a bit better as opposed to just straight up lines. But you can really do whatever you want. If you want to do it longer, you can. If you want to do it shorter, you can. And then I'm also just powdering. I powdered on the outside before I started cutting, and then I powdered slightly on the inside just because the insides are sticky like liquid latex tends to be. For foundation, I just kind of wanted to do like a standard skin tone, so this is probably the closest to my skin colour that you're going to get with foundation. The makeup part of this, you can really do whatever the hell you want, so it's completely up to you. If you want to do white face paint, you can. If you want to just leave it as it is, that's fine as well. And then just concealing on the actual liquid latex bits, because that's a bit lighter and it has more coverage than my foundation, so I thought it would cover that a bit easier. Be careful when you're doing this though, because you don't want to lift up the sides of the liquid latex. So be really careful with your brush. maybe use a sponge. I used a sponge to do it because I thought it'd be a bit easier, and yeah, just be really, really delicate with those areas, and that way you shouldn't really get too much lifting or like, you know, muck with it. I'm going to be doing some bruising for this now as well, so I used my little Amazon paint thing, and I used yellows, I used greens, I used blues, reds, just to really get this bruising. And with the last look, I said that I didn't bruise it enough in my opinion, so I actually went quite a bit overboard with this, but I think it worked because the like latex areas were quite like rough and textured. So I think by adding in so much bruising, and then you're going to cover up a lot of it with blood later on, it really helps you blend it in. Although it looks pretty crazy right now, it does actually look decent at the end. I also bruised it around my actual lips as well, just a little bit, because if you're going to have bits cut into your mouth, you're going to have bruising like all up your cheeks, all around your mouth and everything like that. So I put quite a lot of heavy bruising in that. And like I said, it does look a bit mental right now, but it will make sense later on. So again, just yellows, reds, blues, things like that to help it look a bit gross. On the inside, I'm really carefully filling that in with black, just along like underneath the liquid latex to give it more depth. Be really, really careful so that you don't, you know, like lift up the latex too much and then peel it off by accident. If you do that, you kind of stick it down with a little bit more latex or like lash glue or something like that. And then fill that in with red on the inside as well, just to obviously give it like a bloody look. Duh. Again, just being really, 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 really careful to not lift up the latex too much in those areas. And then just really roughly go around the like lifted edges of the latex with a bit of red to finish that up. It's now that I go with powder all over my face and then over the latex as well, and like the paint, just to like really set that down so that it doesn't keep smudging, and that I don't accidentally like get it everywhere later on. For the makeup, like I said, you can really do whatever you want to, and because I did two pretty like dead looking looks for the first ones, I want to do something a bit more glam, so that way if you are just coming home from work or something like that and you're going out to a Halloween party, you can spend about half an hour just doing the makeup look and leave your like your eyeliner and brows and stuff from the day at work. So I'm just doing like a nice big fat wing, some standard brows, a bit of mascara. I was going to put eyelashes on, but it was literally about 11 o'clock at night and I thought I can't be arsed fanning around for 10 minutes trying to put lashes on. That I'm just going to peel off in 5 minutes. So yeah, I didn't put any lashes on, but I did do like a nice big thick wing, and yeah, I just felt like doing a bit more glam sort of makeup, or just like an everyday kind of makeup would actually look pretty good with this, because otherwise it's just a smiley face if you think about it. So yeah, like I said, you can really do whatever you want to do with it, but this is just what I preferred in this case. I think doing like a really like dark black smoky eye would look amazing with that. Like you can still make that look pretty glam, but I think it would look really cool and creepy. I also didn't end up contouring or highlighting or anything like that because I felt like I've already got enough contouring on my face with the smiley face. I could have done it with on my nose, like a bit of contouring on my nose, but I thought that might look a bit odd because I haven't got contour or highlight anywhere else, so I just kind of left it. But you do absolutely whatever you want to do. For my lips, I'm using a red lipstick. Like the wax on my forehead and trying to do eyeliner and stuff, doing lipstick or anything with your lips with this makeup is quite difficult, so just be careful that you're not opening your mouth too much and you're not peeling off the latex. So I very carefully just kind of do like a general lipstick, and then I do clean it up a little bit later with a bit of lip liner. And when I'm using the lip liner as well, I try to like draw my lips in with the red lines of the cuts. I don't do it on camera, but I do also blend in my lips a little bit because I felt like they looked a bit too stark compared to the cuts on my lip. Now I'm just filling it in really, really heavily with my fake blood, my Meheron blood, just using the same thin brush that I've been using like throughout all of these videos. And I'm really like heavily filling up those cuts with blood because I wanted it to, like, whenever I move my mouth, you kind of see the blood like going in and out and being quite gruesome. So I'm really, really heavily filling that in, and then taking the back of the brush again, like I did the last one, stippling that into the fake blood and then stippling that all over the edges of the cuts and around the bruising. And you can see now that the bruising that I put on before doesn't look quite as harsh and quite as weird anymore. It kind of does blend in a lot. And I'm pretty much doing that all over the cuts, all over the latex area, and then like around my lips and things like that. And then I'm just going back in and putting in a bit more blood if any of it's kind of like worn away. And I do some really, really thick like globs of blood dripping out of it. If you have a thinner blood, like even a mouth safe blood would be pretty good. If you use like a mouth safe blood and really just went messy with it, that would be a lot easier, but because mine is so thick, it's hard to drip it down. But yeah, if you had like a really runny blood, you can again put that along the along the cuts of the lip, and that would just like naturally flow down, and that would look really cool as well. But this is just what I have, so I've got to work with it. And that is the finished look. So guys, that is it for today's video with my 3 SFX looks. If you recreate any of these looks at all, please send me a picture of it in Instagram or tag me. I always link my Instagram in the description box below. I would love to see what you do and how you make this your own. Let me know which look was your favourite in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.